My name's Elisabetta Parisi, and thank you so much for joining us here in Melbourne, Victoria. Welcome to the first episode of the Virtual Spirit Harmony Multicultural Festival Australia 2021, SHMFA, organised by SKGA Incorporated Australia, a not-for-profit community organisation formed in 2002. In association with the Victorian Multicultural Commission, State Government of Victoria, City of Kingston and M4TV channel, the festival is proudly presented by SKGA Incorporated Australia. SKGA is engaged to promote Indigenous, Indian, Australian and multicultural music, films, dance, drama and related cultural activities at this platform via multiple educational productions involving people of all origins, faiths, genders, ethnicities and age groups in Australia. This festival is a brainchild of SKGA's founding president, Mr. Noel Kishore Mudgil, which in the last 10 years has celebrated and collaborated with over 50 diverse cultural backgrounds. In its 10th year, SHMFA 2021 will be telecasted via 4 consecutive weekly episodes covering health, healing, meditation, yoga and well-being, 8 COVID-related and other community talks, multi-faith and lingualism. To support this festival, we have received many video festival messages and greetings from all over. Let's watch some of them.
I'm pleased to be sending my best wishes for this year's Spirit Harmony Multicultural Festival. Music, stage performance and dance have always played a role in bringing community together, and this sense of unity has never been more important for Victorians. As a government, we understand the unique challenges that multicultural communities continue to face, which is why we are so proud to support this event. It brings me great joy to know that you've chosen to take the time to celebrate this special occasion together online. I would like to extend my gratitude to the team at Sangam Group Australia, who proudly celebrate the 10th year of this festival. Thank you to the performers and organisers who have worked tirelessly to bring colour and creativity to our screens. I would like to acknowledge your ongoing commitment to supporting culturally diverse communities across Victoria to maintain a sense of connection and belonging. I hope that next year we can safely celebrate in person. But in the meantime, we will embrace the beauty of performance and cultural heritage from the safety of our homes. On behalf of the Andrews Labor Government, I wish you all a joyful Spirit Harmony Multicultural Festival.
Hello, my name is Viv Nguyen and I'm the chairperson of the Victorian Multicultural Commission. We are an independent statutory body that advocates for and promotes cultural diversity in Victoria and across all levels of government. For several years, the Spirit Harmony Multicultural Festival has been a vibrant, loud and proud celebration of diversity. Spirit Harmony gives Victorians the opportunity to share their cultural traditions. To take part or just to attend is always an entertaining and culturally enriching experience. Like last year, challenges have arisen again, but Noel Mudgil and the Spirit Harmony team have worked incredibly hard to make sure we could all still come together this year. I would like to thank and congratulate the organisers for their efforts in making this special day happen. Through challenging times, we need to stick together, and this means we need celebrations like Spirit Harmony now more than ever. Please enjoy the performances, workshops and other festivities throughout the day, and don't be afraid to reach out to new people. We look forward to meeting you again in person soon, and have a wonderful day.
Hi, I'm Steve Stakos, the Mayor of the City of Kingston. Join us this weekend as we celebrate the Diwali Festival of Lights and Guru Nanak Jayanti. Now in its 10th year, the Spirit Harmony Multicultural Festival is an event not to be missed. Held virtually, the 2021 festival features 3 days of the very best in diverse cross-cultural entertainment, including musical performances, dance, yoga and meditation, and much more. Congratulations to the team at SKGA for putting together another fantastic virtual festival. I encourage everyone in Kingston and across Melbourne to jump online and enjoy this wonderful weekend festival. Thank you.
As we all know, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the state of Victoria has seen lots of challenges. Even this event was cancelled on the 29th of June at Kingston City Hall, thanks to the endless efforts of the SKGA team, who have brought together this virtual event in October. To entertain, we've put together brilliant talks and cross-cultural performances from Bulgaria, Nepal, Azerbaijan, Afghanistan, the Hawaiian Islands, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Greece, and diverse Indian and Australians from all age groups, cultures and talents throughout the festival. SKGA respects all religions and starts each festival with worshipping and prayers for everyone's good health, peace, love and harmony in their lives. Let us start this event with prayers.
मूषिकवाहन मोदकहस्त चामरकर्ण विलम्बित सूत्र वामन रूप महेश्वर पुत्र विघ्न विनायक पाद नमस्ते मूषिकवाहन मोदकहस्त चामरकर्ण विलम्बित सूत्र वामन
me thaw out your heart. Let the coldness melt away. me change your path. Let me have a say. Let me throw out your heart just for one day. Take away those doubts that left you this way. I want to see you until you touch the stars. I want to see you smile. Hold you in my arms. Let me be the one. Set your spirit free. Every moment and every I dream of what could be. Distance. This distance. This distance. Could I throw out your heart and the coldness melt away? Let me change your path before our world slips away. Before our earth has died and the superpowers collide. Before our freedom's gone and this wave gets too strong. Free.
मिलके करे दुआ रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा सारी दुनिया को बचा रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा
आओ मिलके करे दुआ रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा सारी दुनिया को बचा रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा
आओ मिलके सबकी भलाई के लिए हम एक एक कदम बढ़ाएंगे कहा था मसीह ने जो रहना अधीनता में वचनों को कभी ना भुलाएंगे
आओ मिलके सबकी भलाई के लिए हम एक एक कदम बढ़ाएंगे कहा था मसीह ने जो रहना अधीनता में वचनों को कभी ना भुलाएंगे
समझे कि रब की है की रजा
समझ के रब की है ये रजा
उसके नाम का शुक्र मनाएंगे आओ मिलके करे दुआ रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा सारी दुनिया को बचा रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा आओ मिलके करे दुआ रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा सारी दुनिया को बचा रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा आत्मा के साथ भी और समझ के साथ भी चलना हालातों में भी समय के साथ भी
आत्मा के साथ भी और समझ के साथ भी चलना हालातों में भी समय के साथ भी
हमें नहीं हारना हराना इस मौत को जिंदगी के साथ है बदलना इस मौत को विश्वास से चलेंगे तो जीत जाएंगे पीछे ना मुड़ेंगे हम बढ़ते ही जाएंगे पीछे ना मुड़ेंगे हम बढ़ते ही जाएंगे हम मिलके करे दुआ रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा सारी दुनिया को बचा रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा हम मिलके करे दुआ रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा सारी दुनिया को बचा रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा हम मिलके करे दुआ रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा सारी दुनिया को बचा रब अपना हाथ बढ़ा
मस्ती के मस्ताने हजारों हैं मस्ताने हजारों हैं इन आँखों से वाबस्ता इन आँखों से वाबस्ता अफसाने हजारों हैं अफसाने हजारों हैं इन आँखों की मस्ती के रात को जब चांद चमके जल उठे तन मेरा मैं कहूँ मत करो चंदा इस गली का फेरा हाँ, हो रात को जब चांद चमके जल उठे तन मेरा मैं कहूँ मत करो चंदा इस गली का फेरा आना मोरा सैया जब आए चमकना उस रात को जब मिलेंगे तन मन पिया तो से पिया तो से पिया तो से नैना लागे रे जाने क्या हो अब आगे रे नैना लागे रे पिया तो से नैना लागे रे
आज इबादत आज इबादत रूबरू हो गए जो मांगी थी जो मांगी थी उस दुआ से गुफ्तगू हो गए मेरे मौला मेरे मौला मेरे मौला मेरे मौला तेरा शुक्रिया आज इबादत रूबरू हो गई दर्द के अंधेरों से आ गए उजालों में इश्क के चरागों का नूर है ख्यालों में दर्द के अंधेरों से आ गए उजालों में इश्क के चरागों का नूर है ख्यालों में नजरों से तेरी चाक दिल पे रफू हो गई दिल पे रफू हो गई मेरे मौला मेरे मौला मेरे मौला मेरे मौला तेरा शुक्रिया आज इबादत रूबरू हो गई
Κύρα Γιώργιανα, ο Γιώργος σου που πάει, για που το βάλε και που το ξενυχτάει. Έβαλε το σκούρο του, άναψε το φούρο του, μπήκε στο αμάξι του και ένταξη του. Ο Γιώργος είναι πονηρός, για αυτά που λέει μητατορός, για από τις 11 και μπρος, κυκλοφοράει πια γαμπρός. Ο Γιώργος είναι πονηρός, για αυτά που λέει μητατορός, για από τις 11 και μπρος, κυκλοφοράει πια γαμπρός. Ένας ωραίο υπευθύνος, ο Γιωργάκης σου είναι ένας θεατρίνος. Για δουλειά σου μίλησε, πόνιρα σε φίλησε, τι από πουλα μίλησε και δεν γύρισε. Ο Γιώργος είναι πονηρός, για αυτά που λέει μητατορός, για από τις 11 και μπρος, κυκλοφοράει για γαμπρός. Ο Γιώργος είναι πονηρός, για αυτά που λέει μητατορός, για από τις 11 και μπρος, κυκλοφοράει για γαμπρός.
জীবনে কি পাবো না ভুলেছি সে ভাবনা, জীবনে কি পাবো না ভুলেছি সে ভাবনা, সামনে যা দেখি জানি না সে কি আসল কি নকল সোনা। জীবনে কি পাবো না ভুলেছি সে ভাবনা, সামনে যা দেখি জানি না সে কি আসল কি নকল সোনা। যদি সব ছাড়িয়ে দুটি হাত বাড়িয়ে হারাবার খুশিতে যাই শুধু হারিয়ে, যদি সব ছাড়িয়ে দুটি হাত বাড়িয়ে হারাবার খুশিতে যাই শুধু হারিয়ে, যেতে যেতে কারো ভয় থমকে দাঁড়াও না, সামনে যা দেখি জানি না সে কি আসল কি নকল সোনা। জীবনে কি পাবো না ভুলেছি সে ভাবনা, সামনে যা দেখি জানি না সে কি আসল কি নকল সোনা। ভালো আর মন্দের দ্বন্দ্ব জানি না, কে ভালো কে মন্দ যে তার খবর রাখি না। ভালো আর মন্দের দ্বন্দ্ব জানি না, কে ভালো কে মন্দ যে তার খবর রাখি না। কে তুমি নন্দিনী আগে তো দেখিনি, চলেছ এই পথে রূপে যে রঙ্গিনী। কে তুমি নন্দিনী আগে তো দেখিনি, চলেছ এই পথে রূপে যে রঙ্গিনী। চিনে নিতে যদি চাও একটু থামো না, সামনে যা জানি না সে কি আসল কি নকল সোনা জীবনে কি ভাবনা ভুলেছি সে ভাবনা সামনে যা দেখি জানি না সে কি আসল কি নকল সোনা সামনে যা দেখি জানি না সে কি আসল কি নকল সোনা সামনে যা দেখি জানি না সে কি আসল কি নকল সোনা
हलक तेरा पतला just move it round and round मैं तेरे उतवारा dollar euro pound मन ले तू किते याद शौकीन मन किते याद शौकीन tell me what if you come and dance with me कोड़ी नाल इश्क मिठा कोड़ी नाल इश्क मिठा रब्बा लगना किसे नू जावे कोड़ी नाल इश्क मिठा कोड़ी नाल इश्क मिठा
Good day, viewers. This program is in accordance with the COVID-19 rules. I'm Tanya, your host, for today's discussion on COVID-19 and its impact on the South Asian communities. I'm here today with Dr. Raju Adhikari, the president of South Asian Community Link Group and scientist, and Mr. Jimmy Oracle, the representative of the Afghan community and entrepreneur. So, Dr. Raju, would you like to introduce a little bit more on South Asian Community Link Group?
Thank you, Tanya, for your nice introduction. South Asian Community Link Group is a community-based non-political organization. It was formed almost 11 years ago, and we work as a think tank and also as a conduit between the government and the South Asian community to promote, advocate, and champion the migrant community issues. And we are represented by 9 different countries: India, Nepal, Bhutan, Burma, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Maldives, Afghanistan. That's all.
Oh, thank you. Would you like to discuss a little bit more on the vision and the mission, which would have helped COVID-19?
Yes, as I said, South Asian Community Link Group is a think tank, and we work as a conduit, and we work collaboratively for the migrant community issues. And this COVID crisis was an unprecedented and an exceptional challenge for the community organization like ours. We were all surprised when this pandemic crisis came in 2019, late 2019 or early 2020. We didn't understand the complexity and the depth of this problem. So initially we were very slow to respond to this crisis, but as the crisis grew, we know it's going to be a long-term crisis. So we all had to learn to live in a different world and work virtually, digitally, on a virtual platform to connect with our community, which was quite a challenging task for us. And as the crisis grew, we realized that it is impacting our community and the overall Australia in a big way, not only on their health, mental health, financially, in every aspect of their life. So it was quite a challenging task, but luckily and fortunately, we were heavily supported by the Government of Victoria and Australian government. And we worked closely with them, like BMC and DHSS, and worked closely to deal and mitigate this crisis. In doing that, we were represented in the committees of the government. We also received few grants, which helped mitigate this crisis and help connect ourselves to the community.
That's wonderful. Jimmy, how would you like to introduce yourself, and let's say how would you view the Afghan community in Victoria?
Thank you, Tanya. My name is Jimmy Oracle. Actually, my actual name is Najim, so I'll be known by Jimmy Oracle. I'm actually a member of the Afghan community in South Asian Community Link Group for the past 5 years almost. I've been involved in organizing events for the Afghan community and concerts, a lot of music concerts and stuff. That's I've been doing, and I've got a business as well.
How would you view the COVID-19 impact on the Afghan communities in Victoria?
Well, it's been very tough, not for the Afghan community, but for everyone. Globally, it's been 2 years. Most of the Afghans, if you see, they've got businesses. They've been shut for a long time. I'll tell you about myself, my business. I started up about 2 years ago. And I've been open, I've been open only for 4 or 5 months. So you see the financial situation that you get into. So if you see that we're in lockdown, if we are open 1 week or 2 weeks, and then we go back to lockdown. So that affects the businesses a lot. So now you're a provider for your family, and there are rents to pay. There are other financial problems that you
the
face.
Obligations, yeah.
So these are very, very challenging.
If you're saying challenging, you're being a very resourceful person, but I'm very certain that you have friends and family members, maybe colleagues, who are not as resourceful as you are. how do they cope up with these challenges? And if you were to help them, what would you do for them?
As a member of the South Asian Community Link Group, I've been always trying to help the community more. You know, the African community is a very hard-working community. There are a lot of businesses that are shut now. There are like people that are my friends that are in the community, and they have restaurants, they have tradies. So with that, if you're not getting paid, or let's say you're getting paid a minimum amount, then you struggle. Have you seen like a lot of houses are being sold because they can't pay their mortgage, or things like that? But with me, I'm trying to help them out from our organization to advise them to get the vaccines so we can open up back again.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Raju, how would you think that the vision and the mission in general, you mentioned how it helps. How can Jimmy be more, how can he be more supportive with, in relevance to the vision and the mission of our organization?
I think I'll go one step back, Tanya, to what Jimmy mentioned. The COVID crisis, as we all know, has heavily impacted at every section of the society and on a different fronts, more importantly, health and finance. So you have to look at how we can help this crisis to address those two challenges. First, let's look at it, the government supports. Government has been very forthright. Government has created a lot of special funding. For example, I can mention you, government has established an $18 million fund for CAL communities, relief material, and further $8 million for a partnership program with the CAL community to mitigate the crisis, and another $3 million to extended translation services. So if you combine these additional funding, the total funding of the multicultural has gone to almost $90 million, substantial increase. Government was very forthright to give this funding and access to the community organization, so they can be more flexible. They can come out to help mitigate this crisis. Now, as a community organization, when we received this funding, definitely we went outreach to the community, and we talked to them and held many online webinars and also a discussion forum and mentoring sessions, and we got lots of feedback as we moved forward at different stages. And like as Jimmy mentioned, the feedback was that they were really facing financial hardship, and mental health issue was one of on the top agenda, and that might have come from the financial hardship as well. Domestic violence, racism, all these at once come in because of the crisis, because they are in lockdown, they are in isolation, and they are feeling a series of these crises. So the government support, and then we as a community organization, we were very quick to take those financial help and have all these online seminars and conferences and connect to the community, and also raise awareness campaign, video clip and messages with that money, and we shared with the community to not to panic. And we connected them rightly to the places where they can get support from the government. There are lots of support available in the government, but most of the time the communities are not aware of or not being well informed. As a result, sometimes they are more panicking. But if you have the true picture of there are supports available from the government, from the community organization, and more importantly, the community and the governments are working together hand to hand, never before. I've never been so closely working with the government, especially with the DHS and BMC, and it's really working fantastic. It's really developed a very well integrated approach and cemented our relationship with the government multicultural department, and that's where we were together as a team helping our community to our best possible ways. And now they are very well informed, and I hope they're able to cope up with this crisis going forward into the future.
Oh, thank you, Raji. Jimmy, with reference to what he was saying, I know you're very resourceful. With reference to what's going on back in Afghanistan, they are not just experiencing COVID-19, the crisis that they're going through right now. The support system that he was talking about, online mentoring, coaching, advising, because you're very well networked. Do you think it's something that you can do for the Afghan community in Victoria as well as back in Afghanistan?
So within the Victoria, I've got a lot of friends who are very out there in social media. I've got my friend Fahim Faiz, he's an actor, he's done movies, and I've got a lot of other friends who are in the community, and they're helping all the Afghan community here to advise them about the COVID, because it's a really dangerous virus, and to get vaccinated and and there is a big issue of a lot of mental issues. People are all depressed because
they're not
you're stuck
motivated
inside your house, you can't get out. So everyone wants this thing to finish, and we just can't wait.
Can I add one point onto that?
Yeah,
what Jimmy
sure.
says, very important point. You know, I forgot to mention that DHSS and the BMC also organize regular meetings with CAL community organizations, and at the time there were more than 100 organizations attending, and those briefings were regular meetings, and all the community organizations were asked to participate and take that daily, almost fortnightly or even sometime within days briefing, take this message and share with the community, so that communities are very well informed of what government is doing. So that part also created a lot of confidence building exercise in the community going forward.
Yeah, that's actually really great. And back in Afghanistan, the situation here, let's say a lot of families right now, as you questioned about Afghanistan, the situation has actually changed in Afghanistan for the past, if you can see, for the past month, the Taliban has taken over Afghanistan. Now with the COVID situation there, so I've got my families there, they're all vaccinated, but I don't know about the whole Afghan community there, the Afghans there that they've been vaccinated, but their lives are in danger from every Afghan community or tribe there is. Most of their lives are in danger, and most of the people here in the community in Victoria, they have got their loved ones there in Afghanistan. So that's another stress on them, that they think about them. That's what I wanted to ask my organization, South Asian Community Link Group, to do something, if we can do something about that, so they can easily bring their families in who are in danger. That would be actually fantastic. So, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, I think I forgot to mention again in my previous statement that South Asian Community Link Group received two different funding at two different stages. The first funding we got was $25 million to provide immediate relief materials to the community in the South Asian region and overall to emerging community or those who are distressed. And the second stage we got $15 million, which is called a PMRC grant, which is called Priority Response to Multicultural Community. That has just been released in second stages. So these two grants help really South Asian community, to outreach to the community and help them in a different ways. So we were very grateful and thankful to the government of Victoria and multicultural departments, for trusting our community organizations and creating this kind of a funding opportunity, funding for them, so that they can take their leadership on their own way.
Do you have any more suggestions for the government on top of what they have already done for us?
Well, I think there are two issues here, Tanya. One, if you look at the virus, this is a kind of a really science-related problem. The other one is the socio-political problem. So what government has done is fantastic. They have done regular briefing they've come out very clear messages with the vaccines and the testing, especially with the testing and quarantine. You know, all these messages which were put into the community were very difficult to grasp in the very beginning because there are a lot of technicalities involved. So the government was very quick to brief them at a language, and was translated to over 60 different languages. So that's good. So government has done fantastic. Then government also created partnership program through the funding with the CAL community. That's another interesting program. But what we have to understand, as we discussed before, COVID is an ongoing problem. Even after vaccinations, we're not sure how long we'll get vaccinated, how often we get vaccinated, how long our immunity lasts. So we have to live in a new normal life. And wearing masks, sanitizer in every public places is going to be a new normal. So the government has to, I think, continue to monitor what's happening and keeping very closely monitoring the situations of the COVID and come up with more innovative and smart way handling this crisis, going into the future to sustain our economy and the mental health issues.
Okay. Jimmy, do you have any advice for the entrepreneurs or small business owners who is struggling at the moment with no income generated, no revenue coming in? Do you have any advice for them how to manage themselves and use this time where they have actually temporarily closed down the business so they could work on themselves to jumpstart their business once you get the green light from the government?
Yeah, look, with the businesses, we get some sort of payments. And some of the businesses, the community, the admin community, they've got restaurants, so they're allowed to have the takeaways and stuff. So it's not that 100% that they're affected, but mostly with the community, the people are actually, they have had enough of the lockdowns. So my advice to the business people are that there is a finishing time towards this, maybe in a month or two. The lockdowns are going to be finishing and everything will get back to normal. So let's hope and
let's hope, right? Yeah.
Well, I can add to that, Tanya and Jimmy, is that once we reach to a herd immunity level, which we are expecting when the population is vaccinated by almost 90% by October, we have more ease of restrictions. So what my suggestion would be as a community organization from the perspective is that we should continue to hold this COVID webinar, awareness campaign program, and continue to campaign for vaccinations and wearing of masks and all following the health hygiene guidelines. And also, I think we should increase more funding for mental health and domestic violence. And this partnership with the CAL community on this COVID campaign should continue forever. It should not end here once the crisis is over, because we don't know how uncertain is this crisis. You know, we were very unexpected to see Delta variant. You know, and now we don't know what variant comes in. But having said that, I think we will suggest government to hold even in the future a COVID annual seminar, you know, where once the lockdown is over, we can organize a conference, COVID conference, where all the policy holders, stakeholders and community leaders come face to face and discuss what we have learned, what mistakes we have made, and what we should be doing more smartly. You know, all these expert people and the community leader come and that partnership should be face to face and discuss once the lockdown is over. We should hold this kind of a annual COVID conference and brainstorm further to deal with such a similar crisis which might be in the corner.
That's why all the members of the South Asian Community Link Group collaborating towards all these, as we collaborated with the bushfire situation, that we got together and we raised a lot of awareness and a lot of funds actually to prevent such things.
So far, South Asian Community Group has done a lot and collaborated with many. If there were any challenges, how did you overcome it? And then what is the way forward?
I think the biggest challenge is that this is the first time the Kal community have come forward in a very unprecedented way, very challenging way, against all odds, and took the frontline responsibility, working hand to hand with the government. But still there are many gaps. Kal communities are learning, to work with the government in crisis situation like this. So it's just a learning experience which needs to be matured and translated into a real life partnership with the government going forward into the future. As you look at the Kal community, we said 60 languages. 60 languages is nothing. There's so many, even if you look at India or Nepal or
So many
any other
dialects.
country within the Afghani, there's so many dialects which goes in. So which one, they cannot understand one Hindi message or one particular message. It has to be translated into at that level of understanding. And what my suggestion would be that instead of having a virtual Zoom meeting, which we are doing now because of the restrictions, when the restrictions is over, I think governments should create these lobby groups in partnership with community organization and reach suburb to suburbs. Go from one suburb to suburb and hold a small gathering.
Right.
And interact at a very grassroots level with a smaller group with as many languages as possible and do some basic research, understand the dynamics of area suburb, and then go and share that message at the very community level face to face will be more effective when the lockdown is over. So we need to create this partnership more sustainable and more meaningful and formidable and make it stronger. And that's the only way. So Kal community is not only seen to be working in behind, but they should be in the front line in a big way into the future.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raju. Thanks so much, Jimmy. Thank you, gentlemen. I think we kind of wrapped up everything what we have to say. Viewers, thank you so much for joining in, staying tuned, spending some time to listen to what we have to say. I'm Tanya, your host, and stay safe.
Hi everyone, my name is Anushka and this is Janvi Mystery. We're from the Shore Project podcast and today we are here to discuss adolescent mental health and the impact of COVID-19 on the mental health of young people as part of the Multicultural Outreach Program. So I am a generalist psychologist. I work full-time at a high school with young people. I have done research around trauma and supporting students. I've also done research around multiculturalism and Asian Australian mental health, which has actually led me to start my own private practice, Mead Psychology, where we aim to support people in a culturally sensitive way from Asian Australian backgrounds and from Pacific Islander backgrounds as well. Janvi, over to you.
Of course. Hi everyone, my name is Janvi Mystery and I came here when I was 18 in 2017 and I'm a psychology graduate and I aspire to work in the mental health field. And I've sort of worked with organizations like CMY, White Lines, which are very adolescent mental health, focused. And my long-term goal from now is to focus on the migrant challenges, especially those international students who come here and want to navigate, because I've experienced the challenges. So I want to help them and give back to the community as much as I can. And that's why we started the Shore Project podcast. So this Shore Project podcast basically aims at supporting migrants and the challenges they face. And we talk about experiences such as mental health, migrant mental health. We talk about experiences such as international student life experience, sexual health, and more. And I think the kick in our podcast is that we have various guest speakers that come on board and have a chat with us. And they are of different age groups from different backgrounds. So I guess we really get to experience, what it is to live like a migrant and a young person in this country, and also not only just international, but from various backgrounds.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I love about the podcast is that the whole idea is to be able to provide resources. Being a young person growing up is difficult enough when you don't have the right supports around you, and sometimes when you're coming from a multicultural background especially, you might not know where to get those resources from. So we wanted to be that one-stop shop essentially for resources and for support as well. And I guess that's a long-term aim, isn't it? We would like to eventually open up a physical shore hub where people can come, you know, attend webinars, discuss things, have a space for young people, all of that sort of stuff. So long-term goals that are looking pretty good, I think, at the moment. We're very excited about it. But if you do ever want to hop on and listen to our podcast, we are on Spotify. It's called The Shore Project. Because we like to make sure about migrant challenges and how to overcome them. And not just for young people as well. We do address issues related to adults and older adults as well.
So Anushka, tell me, as a general psychologist who works in a school setting, you know, what are the challenges that you have observed among adolescents, especially during the times of COVID?
Okay, yeah, this is super interesting. So, you know what? I think young people have been most affected by COVID. Let's just face it, no one was even anticipating that we would be in a global pandemic and that we would be going through what we're going through right now. And we really, you know, as a country, as a state, as individuals, we didn't know how to handle this stuff. And for young people, I've seen such a variety in the sense that it's been kind of like a knock-on effect from, I would say, primary school and onwards. So I work in a high school now, but in the last year or so, I've also worked in primary school settings, and I guess that's where I'm going to start off, is that with my grade sixes, so, you know, end of primary school, there was a lot of anxiety for such young people, you know. Year 6 is when you're about 11, 12, maybe 13 years old, still quite young, still quite vulnerable, not quite, you know, have that sense of what's going on in the community, but old enough to know that there's something not quite right. And for them, you know, here anyway, when you get to grade 6, it's quite a big deal, you know, you are at the top of the food chain finally, you get these little privileges, your own year 6 jumper, you get to graduate, you spend time with your friends. And look, a lot of my kids last year, they knew that this was the last year that they would get to spend with their friends and with their teachers and in the comfort of primary school. And that transition to high school is always a bit difficult. You know, it's very similar to the transition from year 12 to uni, where it's a different stage of your life, you know. And so for them, it was like, oh, well, this year, if we're all in remote learning and we all have to be at home, I don't get to spend time with my friends and I don't get to socialize. And I might not get to see them from next year onwards because we're going to different high schools. Or high school is going to be really, really tough because the last year of even the curriculum that was provided to year 6s, I mean, even just across the education board, was reduced and the impact was less. So, you know, going into the following year would have been a little bit harder. So there were lots of concerns, lots of, you know, I had one little boy who was like, I can cure COVID. Like, he was very anxious, very worried about stuff, and he did a lot of reading around things. And I think it was just a very uncertain time. We have to also acknowledge the fact that, like, last year when we did go through our various lockdowns, it was, we went into lockdown, came out, kids were at school for 2 weeks, and then bam, we were back in lockdown. And I know that was really hard for us as adults and as young people, you know, as well. But for children going through primary school and high school, it's even more difficult because it's a roller coaster of a ride, in the sense that there's no consistency. And then all of a sudden, I think when we did that bit and we had to go through that phase, it was difficult because there was no certainty at the end. We didn't know whether if we would be getting out of it anytime soon. We went through lockdown in the sense of, you know, what was it, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then all of a sudden we were in phase 4, you know, curfew, everything's happening in the background, so you couldn't do anything. And I think for a lot of the kids, it was like, oh, you know, we might not get to go back to school. We don't know what the rest of the year looks like. There was no, like, certainty about, you know.
So this is which age group?
This is just across the board, I reckon. Okay. It was very much like that. I mean, that was the case for us as well. Stage 4 lockdown, we were like, we don't know when this is going to end. We don't know what it's going to look like. So a lot of uncertainty for students as well. Which actually, you know what, I am finding this year as well. We didn't think we were going to be going through all of these different lockdowns, you know, 4, 5, 6, where are we up? 6, we're up to, and so something that all of my students, even in high school and primary school, are currently facing is, are we going to go back to school in term 4? Because we cut off in the middle of term and we don't know whether if we're going back or not. And this is it, right? This is where the stress comes, whether you're in primary school and high school, and I will discuss how this impacts high school. But it's just like, we have to realize and recognize the fact that students don't just go through lockdowns, they go through school holidays as well. And school holidays are supposed to be a really fun time. And so their year is very broken this year because we've gone lockdown, school holidays, lockdown, school holidays. So they've been at home, school, and it's all been a bit all over the place. And while last year there was a lot of provision around education and workload, this year there's been a little bit less of that. And I think it's very difficult, you know, again, for teachers as well, working with young people to try and adapt to that, and for young people to adapt to online learning, because online learning is so different to learning in person where you're engaged in a different way. And
what about high school?
High school, so in terms of high school, in terms of, like, you know how I was saying there was a knock-on effect, there is a knock-on effect in the sense that when the year 7 started school last year, they were at school for about 2 weeks. So like I said, we were in and out, you know, of school, of lockdown. So they were at school for maybe 2, 3, or maybe 4 weeks if they were lucky, and then bam, you know, they were back at home. And so the main issue for the grade 7s or the year 7s was the fact that they weren't able to socialize with other people. They weren't in that environment, making new friends, getting that social support, not really getting that opportunity to know their teachers very well. And then they're learning from home, like that's brand new to them as well, you know. So what we're finding again as a result of that is this year, last year's year 7s are now year 8s, and when they came back to school and they were spending time at school, that social interaction was looking like there was a lot of friction amongst the students, I think. And I think it's because they didn't have that opportunity to learn and grow socially and emotionally, which is really important. You can be academically smart, that is, you can probably still achieve that through online learning, but the human connection and the interaction that we have with other people, forming friendships, all of that sort of stuff, learning social skills, that happens best when you are in an environment physically. And that's what I think was the primary issue there.
I think it's very important. I think social support, like you just touched on it, I think the support from your teachers and not getting to know them well, I think that can be tough.
And it's like, you know, you don't know who to go to for like support in terms of like your academic stuff as well, because you might be a little bit more nervous about approaching people. I think like, actually, you know what, on that note, you've worked with young people before, and like you understand like the importance of social support, right?
Yeah, absolutely. See, I came here when I was 18 as well, right? In my lived experience, I think the only thing that really helped me throughout settling in this new country was social support. Like, how do I get a job? You know, my first part-time job was through networking. That's social support, right? Don't know how to do my assignment in first year of uni. Where do I go to? That's social support. Like, you're reaching out to your tutors or your university professors, and I think social support is very important. Like we were, I think, talking about this before
with the white line
and community sport. Like you need to have some sort of hobby where you can, you know, physically invest in it. Like let's say football or footy, or, you know, for me it was painting and dancing, you know, and then you can go and meet with people with similar similar interests, and then you can just have a conversation with them and, you know, do the same activity together. And that is very, very
it's building
important.
that connection, isn't it?
It is.
Even if you don't need something from someone, it's just having that connection with another person is very important. Which, you know what, coming back to, I guess, the high school scenario, is that I think that's where you learn skills by learning them from other people, because someone might have something that you don't have. And I think that's where the younger sort of population of high school, end of primary school, is sort of facing. And I think a lot of the anxiety, stress, mental health challenges came from that sort of space. And if we moved on from that, you know, like we've got the year 9s and year 10s, and I think I was telling you earlier, like here we don't actually start exams until like year 10. That's the first time you're doing it, which is crazy. That's all in a
online.
When you're doing it, exactly. And I think for some of them, they couldn't do that, right? So I think last year was a bit iffy around, some schools did exams online, some didn't, in terms of just the year 9, 10 population. So when they've come into year 11 this year, it's like, whoa, this is so much work that I've got to do. Workloads just increase because VC is stressful. And, you know, they haven't had that opportunity to practice how to do exams. And something that a lot of my year 10s this year were facing is that because of, again, that roller coaster being in and out of lockdowns and school holidays, they'll study for an exam, prepare for it, be motivated to do the thing, and then it gets pushed back or cancelled because of, you know, their environmental circumstances. Right.
And as a result, they then become demotivated. They lack concentration. They don't want to do the work anymore because they're like, we've practiced this so many times. I'm so tired of doing this. Like, you know, and a lot of the inquiries that I'm getting from my kids are like, you know, Miss, how do I get myself motivated again? How do I stop procrastinating because it's increased? And I think you and I were talking about this earlier, but in terms of motivation and staying engaged with learning, like online learning works great for some kids.
Some people like they really
even like working from home works better for some people as opposed to other people. So I think online learning works great for those kids who like having their own time management. You know, they plan out their day. They're like, I'm going to do this, and they're very organized. Or for the kids who are a bit socially anxious, don't like to, you know, sort of interact with other people in person. It sort of removes all of those elements that make them uncomfortable. And those kids are doing quite well actually on online learning. They're thriving. That's a very small part of the population. A big part of the population within adolescence, they enjoy being at school with other people and interaction, having their recess, their lunchtime, talking to their teachers, you know, even being in a controlled space in the classroom.
I think talking about environment as well, like when you go to school and just going into that environment, like I'm going to school, right? Into that mindset. I think even when I'm working from home, the boundaries are really blurred. Like my home is my gym, my home is my workplace, my home is the place that I like. It's like
it's everything in one at the moment.
And like so we can rationalize that, but I'm assuming for children it must be really
I think you're right. You know what, for children and for adolescents, it's a lot harder to separate those lines because for the most part, you were studying probably from your room. So you get up in the morning, and I know a lot of my kids do this now where they've started to lose motivation in logging in for attendance. They'll log in via their phone, still be half asleep. Like, you know, it's very difficult. But in saying that as well, I work with some populations of kids that come from really rough backgrounds, you know, some domestic violence, some family violence, or, you know, just low SES, just trying to make meets, or they have very big families and the space for them to study doesn't quite exist. So distractions. Distractions. You know, there's things like distractions. There's things like, you know, if your parents don't have the best relationship, being cooped up with them, listening to that arguments all day, or, you know, maybe everything's fine with your family, but you're a lot of siblings, so sitting around the dining table and studying is like hectic because everyone's trying to learn together but separately, and you're not in separate classrooms. So I think environment really does make a huge impact.
And then in saying that, so I think we've spoken about environment, we've spoken about, I think, year 12. What happens when students go from year 12 to university? Because in my experience, it's a big transition. University is like adult world, and you suddenly just
and you make the leap.
You take a big jump.
You know what I always say, it's like when you're in high school and you're in like that year 11, year 12 space, you're 17, 18 years old, right? And you have to you've got to raise your hand and ask to go to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden smash in like, you know, 3 months you've got to do everything by yourself. Autonomy is completely there. You're completely independent. No one at university is chasing after you to do anything. And let's just, you know, that phase there, that space between 17, 18, 19, when you are, that's still adolescence. You're still a teenager. You're still quite young. But a lot of things are happening. You probably are moving out of home. Some kids are going, you know, to TAFE. Some kids are going to university. Whatever it is that they're doing.
Figuring out
you're figuring it out. Yeah, you're like making major life decisions at a very young and vulnerable age. And that already is stressful. Like navigating university is stressful. Navigating the end of year 12, I mean, year 12 again, you know, very similar to the grade 6s. If you're during COVID times, just linking it back a little bit, is that you don't get the opportunity to spend time with your friends. It's the last year, everyone's going their separate ways the year after. There's a lot of that nervousness is already there. And then you in COVID and you've missed out. You missed out on, like, you know, your formals, your graduation, your like all your fun days, like the PJ days that you get to do at school, all the privileges that come with being, you know, senior in the school as well. And opportunities to do things like debating and like learning those social skills as well, or even just having access to like teachers like on the spot. And I will give credit to the teachers at my school. They are really trying to support their kids, and I know teachers everywhere really are. But it's very difficult, you know. There's, and again, blurred boundaries in terms of when you can get support. Even myself as a therapist, I'm finding it difficult because when I'm at school, kids just come in, they come and talk to me. And having those conversations at home is a little bit harder because blurred lines, they can't really have, you know, phone calls or whatever because their parents are around and can't speak as freely. So they're not really getting the support that they can necessarily that they need.
Yeah.
But yeah, that transition from high school to university is really difficult. You've got to, you know, navigate all of these different spaces. And what I found with my clients who have made that transition in the last year is that they, again, you know, coming back to like social support, they can't, I guess, talk to their peers. They're not making the friendships, or making friendships online in class is a little bit harder. Like you can't just type to someone versus when you sit down next to someone in class, it's different. So a lot of the time when you're coming to university, it's not so much your professors or your lecturers who are supporting you, it's the people around you. Yeah, so it's like, hey, yeah. And you would get this, like you're still at uni and you're still studying as well. I think you were at least last year.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because when you're next to someone, you can be like, hey, I need help with this, or have you done this assignment? Or you build those relationships up, you get that support, and they're not getting that. You know, and especially if you're moving from, say, a high school to a university where you don't have friends or you don't have anyone in your course.
Or you move states.
Move states. That is really, really hectic.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess, you know, the added layer to that again, if you're an international student, what does that look like?
I mean, I experienced both. So I think definitely when I was on campus, I think the whole part of an international student is experiencing the on-campus university life.
Yeah.
Really. And I think a lot of students, when they came in, they didn't know that, you know, COVID pandemic was going to hit. And it is tough. It is definitely tough because when I was on campus, I had access to literally a lot of resources, and the universities are just amazing at providing these resources in terms of, let's say, just, you know, assignment support, events. There used to be so many events, you know, like literally every week there was an event, there was free food. And when you're online, you don't have that, you know. It's
you don't have that face-to-face interaction. But also, like, you don't know where to get resources from because it's a lot of word of mouth, I think.
Word of mouth, and also in university, what they do is they have these hubs, right? You know, like one day you see like there's some club, a hub, and they're asking you to join you, and just walk into uni and you grab a cup of coffee and you can see that, you know. But when you're online, it's like you're anyways trying to figure out a new way of doing assignments and, you know, trying to figure out so many things. And this is regardless of whether international or not, I think. It's just uni life first year is the most important.
It's very difficult,
Yeah. It's not, I think it's difficult, but also it's difficult in terms of navigating through.
I think that's it. The major part of that is navigating through. But you know what I'm hearing is that with COVID, we've added an extra layer of proactivity. So you have to be so proactive now to, like, if you want to find something, you need to go out and find it. But how do you know that you need to find something that doesn't exist? Like, if, you know, in your head, you don't know that there are going to be clubs and societies and spaces.
Especially first year of uni.
First year of uni, you have no idea, you know. And how do you do that when you're not around other people who are able to give you that, or people who are maybe more senior to you, or who have been at uni for a long time? That is so much more difficult.
I think, like, talking about senior students as well, like when you are in first year, second year, you do not only interact with peers from your class, but also somebody who's doing masters and PhD, or someone who's studying completely different.
That opportunity is there. It's more prevalent. It's right there.
Yeah, you can have conversations and you meet at these different parties and you know, all those. Let's say you're living in a university dorm, you know, you meet them there. So
you get that opportunity to network.
Yeah, exactly. So that is very important. But in saying that, how do you think? So we've discussed the problems, right?
We have, and let's summarize some of the problems, right?
Yeah.
So if you are coming into this space during COVID-19 and you are an adolescent, I think, you know, across the board, we're looking at a lot of increased stress. We're looking at a lot of increased anxiety. And when I say anxiety, you know, it's just that constant worry, a lot of that uncertainty. Because this is something that we don't talk about. What is anxiety? It's you are feeling, you know, maybe your heart races, you can't sleep at night. I'm seeing a lot of sleep issues within young people.
Okay.
Yeah. That loss of motivation, low mood, just even like physical symptoms, a lot of nausea in recent times I'm seeing, the butterflies in the stomach, your heart racing, chest is tightened. There's a lot of, you know, some kids are having panic attacks, and it's due to a range of different factors. We're seeing, you know, depression as well. So again, going back to that low mood, can't get out of bed in the morning, don't feel like doing anything for myself or my family. Those are the more prevalent things. The stress, anxiety, depression, those are very high in the last sort of year and a half. And it doesn't seem to be getting better because the thing with COVID is, like, there's lack of hope. We don't know what the future looks like, so therefore we can't be hopeful for it. And loneliness, you know, when we're talking about young people then transitioning from high school to university, I think that's a major thing. If you're moving to a university, like I said, and you don't have anyone around you, loneliness because you don't have that social support. If you're coming from overseas, you probably don't have family here. 90% of the time you don't have family or friends, and you're just stuck, you know, by yourself in your own room. Especially when we were in lockdown last year, it was very intense to not be able to navigate that space. And so we're looking at loneliness, you know.
What would be some, I think, strategies, but also resources?
To like overcome this sort of stuff.
Yeah, like let's say I'm a young adult or adolescent experiencing, you know, anxiety and depression. Then where should I look?
Okay, cool. This is great. So there is actually so many resources out there. I think, look, as an adolescent, the first place that I would always suggest, Headspace. I know that they are bombarded this year. They really are, but they are great because they deal with 12 to 25-year-olds. The services are free. You can do e-Headspace as well, which is online. And I think that's a fantastic service. They are very well versed in different mental health issues, so it's not just, you know, working with this sort of stuff. It can be other things. Like a lot of my young kids are carers for their parents, you know, because their parents have like health issues or whatever. So getting the support for themselves from there. They're easy enough to contact. The alternative, I guess, is to maybe find a therapist online. So you can go through the Australian Psychological Society. If you're looking for someone who has an Indian background and is culturally sensitive and maybe understands issues that are related to being Asian Australian. So, you know, say you were born and brought up here and you struggle with balancing the values at home and school and everything's a bit much for you, or you're an international student, Umid Psychology, so where my own practice is actually quite good for that sort of stuff. I think we place a lot of value around that, and you can find me online or on Instagram at Umid Psychology. Otherwise, if you are looking for other culturally sensitive psychologists, I would recommend
Shapes and Sounds.
Shapes and Sounds. They're great. Asami is wonderful, and she has a whole directory on. Her and Viv have a whole directory on their website that you can go through and find a therapist who is culturally sensitive.
And what about international? Like, let's say international.
Oh, true. Yeah, because that is okay. So number one thing for international students is that finances, right? So for the most part, they don't seek out support because, well, finances is an issue. So fun fact, Indian Care is actually providing free sessions. They received funding, I think, from Study Melbourne to provide free mental health care sessions for international students. I think you get up to 5. So if you contact them, they will get you in touch with a therapist. They've got a few on their list, and you can access 5 free sessions. And you know what the best
Which is great.
Can I just say, if you have been like even thinking about getting support, that is such a good way to go about it, because it's not costing you anything. What is the worst case scenario? You'll have a conversation with someone and you might feel better. And that's it, right? We keep talking about social support, but it's fact. That is what the research shows, you know, getting support from your family, your friends, your therapist, your teachers, being able to reach out and just get support in this time is so important.
Exactly. And I think even Sari has a directory, right, for psychology.
They do, yes. The Sari Collective does, yes.
Yeah, so you can
plenty of resources.
Yeah, there are plenty of resources, and also you can just so that's our purpose at Short as well, right? Linking resources to the community. Yeah, so you can just head on our Instagram or on our website. So it's Short Project Podcast for Instagram, and just look up the link to websites, or just email us. We're more than happy to share it with you.
Definitely. If you've got a particular question as well around mental health, adolescent mental health, maybe you're a parent and you have questions around supporting young people, feel free to email us. So our email address is shoreproject@umidpsychology.com.au. And like Janavi mentioned, on our Instagram page, we actually have a Linktree link, so you can click on that
and you get everything.
And you'll get everything. Everything will just pop up.
That's simpler.
So I think I really do as well. Like by the time we go through and discuss the website, it's a very long website URL. But you know, the other thing that I wanted to mention just real quickly is that we do talk about strategies, you know, and all I can say is that in this time, whether if you're an adolescent or an adult, and whatever it is that you're facing in terms of your mental health issues, even just a little bit of low mood, I highly recommend self-care. You know, we don't look after ourselves enough. Knowing that it's okay for you not to be the most productive that you can be, because we are in a global pandemic, everyone, that you can do self-care can look as small as drinking enough water in the daytime, eating meals on time, which I know a lot of people are not doing right now, going for walks, catching up with friends on Zoom as much as you you know, might have a little bit of Zoom fatigue, calling your parents, all that sort of stuff, you know, reaching out into the community, finding these resources. That is the best way to get support.
If you have like 3 strategies, right?
Yeah.
That I can, I guess, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, really work on instantly, like 3 strategies.
Self-care. Self-care would be the first one. Go and look up like self-care bingo online. Like that is probably the best thing to do. What else would I recommend? Maybe just like understanding the signs of burnout and understanding what that looks like and how to sort of recover from that as well, because I know that's something that's happening a lot to people. And the last one would be communication and seeking, again, social support. I feel like that should have been the name of today's episode, social support. And you know, if you are an adult and you have adolescents around you, taking the time out to maybe understand them, you know, support them as well. Just be there. You don't have to do anything sometimes. Sometimes being there, listening is enough. Yeah.
Great conversation.
Yeah. On that note, I guess we're done for today.
Thank you so much everyone for listening, and hope you enjoyed this session. And that's me, Johnny Mystery, once again for you.
And I'm Anushka. Please enjoy the rest of the festival. Stay positive and test negative, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.